Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to the No DQ live recap of WWE Summerslam 2020 at the WWE Thunderdome in Orlando, Florida. Shout out to everybody watching live. Bry King already sent in a $2 super chat saying, after Roman Reigns being gone, realized he's value. Yes, the big news. The big dog is back. Roman Reigns returning. The tagline, you never saw it coming, although there was speculation. There was even a post on NoDQ.com that with WWE going to the bigger arena, that could potentially open up the door for Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar to return. So there was some speculation, but nobody really predicted it to happen on this show at SummerSlam. But we'll get to Roman Reigns. We'll talk about everything that went down. Let's go ahead and start with the kickoff. Now, real quick, for those of you sending super chats, please try to stick to the topic if you can. Mike D with the $2 super chat says, a heel Roman? Again, we'll talk about it later. And TJS with a $2 super chat says, more pyro equals bigger star in Vince McMahon's eyes. That could be true, but at the same time, let's talk about this kickoff match where we had Apollo Crews defending the U.S. title against MVP. Apollo got some pyro. So not necessarily TJS. People were getting pyro from the beginning of the show to the end of the show. But yes, you could say that the bigger the pyro, perhaps that's somebody that is considered to be a bigger star. Now, we had the panel kickoff for SummerSlam. Renee Young was there. She did confirm that this is her final night in WWE. It's her last hurrah. Again, thank you to Renee Young for everything that she's done in WWE over the past 7-8 years. It's been quite a run for her, no doubt about it. MVP came out with new music, which I believe is the same music he used in 2010 for a very brief time. At least that's what people are telling me. I do not remember that far back, so I cannot confirm that. But when I posted on Twitter that it was new music, people were messaging me saying he used that theme before, back right before he left in 2010. Anyways, Crews got a hot start in the match, but then MVP dumped him over the top rope. Crews's head hit the steel steps. Both of them almost got counted out at one point, but then they both got into the ring at 9. And then Crews countered the playmaker, hit the sit-down powerbomb to retain the championship. Hurt Business, even though they came out with MVP for his entrance, they were not allowed at ringside per the stipulation, which to me was the right finish here. Apollo Crews should be retaining the title, build him up, and have Lashley be the next challenger. Hurt Business had new t-shirts. Nice opening match here to kick off SummerSlam. And I do feel like the U.S. title should be on the main card, but whatever at this point. I always feel like the title matches should be on the main card without question. Mike B with a $2 super chat says, hashtag thank you, Renee. I agree with that, Mike B. At TJS left a $1 shocked emoji super chat. Thank you for that, TJS. Kickoff match was fine. And hey, I'm not going to argue about it too much because it resulted in a shorter show. If they just put Apollo and MVP on the main card, then theoretically the pay-per-view would go longer. And I am a big fan of these shorter pay-per-views. If there's one positive from this pandemic, it's that the WWE pay-per-views have gotten shorter. When was the last time SummerSlam from the start of the main card to the end was 3 hours or less? Like, I cannot remember the last time a SummerSlam was that short. Although I do feel last year's was shorter than usual. I'd have to go back and do a runtime for that pay-per-view. Tony with a $2 super chat says, "You'll never see Roman Reigns coming, rolling the eyes." Again, we'll talk about Roman later. And Christian with a $2 super chat says, "Apollo more over than the idiotic Iconics." Well, Apollo, he's got some momentum going. He's doing pretty well for himself. And looking forward to seeing Lashley versus Cruz. That's definitely a match that should be built up as the next U.S. title program. Tony H with the $2 super chat says, "Big Four pay-per-views should be 4 hours max." I agree very much with that. And Charles Coleman with a $5 super chat. Thank you guys for your super chats. He says, "How does WWE expect us to take Retribution serious if they weren't even on your second biggest pay-per-view?" Well, I, for one, am actually glad we got no Retribution on this show, because that felt like the obvious ending to the show. Felt like an obvious angle where they would show up. And if anything, I feel like the lack of Retribution made this a better show. Ken terminated by DQ with a $2 super chat says, "If anyone needs pyro, it's Mike B." Well, there you go. Ken with a little knock at him, I suppose. By the way, shout out to everybody watching live. We have almost 400 people watching live right now. If you're enjoying the live stream, please subscribe, turn on notifications. I will be streaming all this week. Literally every day this week, there'll be a new live stream going into Payback, which is next Sunday. Virtue in the chat room says it's because Roman is a draw. Hey, I'm not going to argue that. We kicked off the main card with Bayley defending the Smackdown Women's Championship against Asuka. We had pyro. We had shots of the virtual fans cheering, showing their excitement. Bry King with a $5 super chat says, "WWE should have the virtual audience use green screen to remove the colorful background, giving it a more realistic feel and reducing the distraction." Is that what the NBA does? Because I checked out a clip of the NBA, not that I wanted to, but it was on because the game went into overtime when AEW Dynamite was supposed to start. And it looks like those fans have a green screen. I agree it looks better, but I'm going to say this about the virtual fans. I thought it came off way better on this show than SmackDown. First of all, it felt like the fans were more in sync with what was going on in real time. Like when something happened, the people were reacting accordingly. And you could see people doing the thumbs up, the thumbs down. We got some signs on this show, which I'll talk about. And it felt more authentic. And we even saw the sign guy, he was there. We saw Pikachu. The audience really added to this show more than they did on SmackDown. So whatever WWE did, it was an improvement. Maybe there was a delay on SmackDown. Part of me thinks that perhaps they did a delay on purpose for SmackDown because it was the first show with this new concept. And also there's the fear, of somebody flashing their junk or flipping off the camera. Nobody, to my knowledge, did that on this show. And because it's on the WWE Network and on pay-per-view, if something happens, it's not as big of a deal if it happens on Fox. Name Restricted with a $2 super chat says, "As promised, my return happens in 3, 2, 1. I wonder what that's about. We're going to have somebody invade this live stream, perhaps? I have no idea. Well, if I lose my live stream, then somebody is clearly screwing with me. Hopefully that doesn't happen. So we had Asuka versus Bayley for the SmackDown Women's title. And Asuka took out Bayley early in the match by jumping off the steps and hitting a DDT to her on the floor. Bayley regrouped, gained the advantage, hit the Bayley to belly suplex. Asuka kicked out of it. And then Bayley drove Asuka's knees right into the apron. Bayley put on a submission to try and finish off Asuka. Asuka then countered with an elbow drop. or countered the elbow drop with a submission. And then Sasha started to make her presence felt. She tried to attack Asuka but missed. And then Sasha got on the apron again, and Asuka charged at Bayley. Bayley moved, and Sasha got hit with the hip attack, fell off the apron, and then Bayley took advantage of this. She rolled up Asuka with a small package, 1, 2, 3, to retain the SmackDown Women's Championship. And then after the match, Sasha and Bayley continued to beat down Asuka. Good match here, good opener, like the storyline. Pretty much exactly as I figured it would go down, with Sasha being the difference maker and basically taking a hit for Bayley to make sure that Bayley retained her championship. Hoof-Hearted is the person who's back. So thankfully it's not somebody trying to hack my live stream. Hoof-Hearted with a $2 super chat has returned to the live stream. Thank you for that. I'm glad you're back. Now, where is Hank Schrader on the shitter? Where's Kayfabe Candy Ass? We got to have those guys back for it to be a really big no DQ party. It's already a big one, but we need those guys too. Where are they? The This Guy Experience with a $2 super chat says, status quo is back, Virtue is happy, I am not, good night. Well, not everybody thrilled about the big news of this show, but I will say this is the biggest turnout for a live stream in a while, so Virtue's right. Big dog, love him or not, he's a draw. Let's move on here to the Raw Tag Team titles. The Street Profits defending their titles against Andrade and Angel Garza. Before the match, we did have a recap shown of Retribution's antics, which is funny because they never actually appeared on the show, but I guess it was to just tease us with the idea that maybe they would show up. Kevin Owens came out wearing a tie over his street clothes. He did commentary for the match. Charles Coleman with a $2 super chat says, Street Profits versus Private Party, LOL. Maybe one day we'll get that match. And Shanti with a $5 super chat says, who else is back? It's me, Shanti. Yes. Glad to see you back, Shanti. I see some of the old regulars who have been gone for a while have returned. Cool entrance from Street Profits. They literally had Solo cups coming down from the ceiling like confetti. Pretty cool stuff here. And like I said on the SmackDown recap, the setup at the Thunderdome visually is so much better than the Performance Center. And as I said a few moments ago, the virtual crowd was definitely a better experience on this show than SmackDown. Hoof-Hearted with a $2 super chat says, the Thunderdome is better than no crowd in my opinion. I agree with you on that. And Charles Coleman with a $5 super chat says, I like how they did the Tree of Woe spot you said you don't like. Angel Garza was Montez Ford's support. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a big fan of it, but it is what it is. So anyways, Garza and Andrade were doing well early on. Ford went for this dive over the top. The heels caught him and double power bombed him on the floor. Dawkins eventually got the hot tag, but then he was hit by a back elbow from Andrade, and then Ford tagged in even though he was worn out from the heels, and he almost got pinned. And then Andrade attempted to interfere, grabbing Ford's foot, but the referee saw it. Zelina Vega then got on the apron, and Garza was kicked by Ford into Vega. She fell off the apron. Andrade went to check on Vega, and while Andrade was distracted, Profits double teamed. They did the cash out, and then Ford did the frog splash onto Garza for the 1, 2, 3. Good match here. I enjoyed it. Street Profits still the champs. Charles Coleman with a $2 super chat says Byron Saxton is a goofy. Well, he is goofy, that's for sure. Just go back and watch the first Raw pandemic episode when he was doing the Steve Austin hell yeah, that was certainly goofy. And Darren Frazier with a $2 super chat says Retribution will beat the Street Profits. If we ever find out who the members of Retribution are, I mean, if they're anybody significant, then maybe. Never say never, right? Next up here, we had Mandy Rose versus Sonya Deville in a no DQ. Loser leaves WWE match. Match was okay, but I was a little disappointed. I was expecting more, and I'm not sure because of the stipulation change and what went down in real life. It just didn't come off the way I would have hoped for, considering how good the storyline has been, but it was still a decent match. Daniel sent in a $2 super chat, says, if Roman beats The Fiend, is The Fiend buried? Well, let's wait and see what happens, you know. Doesn't mean that Roman Reigns is going to beat The Fiend, but we'll talk about that later, guys. Remember, try to stick to the topic when you send in the super chats. I would really appreciate it. Sonya tried to pin Mandy right away. They quickly brawled on the outside of the ring. Mandy suplexed Sonya on the ramp, and then they fought back down by the announce table. Mandy pulled a table from under the ring and attempted to set it up, and she failed quite epically, and I'm sure this will be on Botchamania. She could not get that table upright, and I think the referee had to whisper to her how to set the table up properly, and she was finally able to do it. Sonya took advantage of the situation, hit Mandy with a steel chair. Sonya taunted Mandy. Mandy made a comeback, and she had a running knee to the face, picked up the 1-2-3 victory to end Sonya Deville's career in WWE. Pretty much what I expected, given the real-life circumstances. There's a trial with this attempted kidnapper, and I do not blame Sonya at all for wanting to step away from the limelight for a period of time. I'm sure she'll be back. I mean, I'm not 100% sure, but I feel like she'll be back eventually. She was red hot, and hopefully that incident doesn't turn her off wrestling for good. I mean, she was on a roll, and I'm hopeful one day she'll come back. She'll be ready to come back, but that'll be when she's ready. Otis came out after the match, celebrated with Mandy, so we got a little Otis moment on the show. Mandy even did a caterpillar, which was not that good, I will say. Otis does a way better caterpillar than Mandy, but little fun moment here for them. And hopefully we will see Sonya back when she's ready to return. Next up, we had Seth Rollins versus Dominic Mysterio in Dominic's first WWE match. Before the match, Dominic asked Rey to not interfere in the match. He wanted to do it on his own. And then we also saw Rey Mysterio's wife, Dominic's mother, Angie, there in attendance for the match. Rollins came out wearing a very similar outfit that Rey Mysterio wore back at the 1997 Halloween Havoc pay-per-view when he fought Eddie Guerrero, and that's considered one of the best matches in WCW history, so little nod to that. Rollins was overconfident. He was allowing Dominic to put on a headlock. Dominic busted out some moves, did some arm drags, drop kicks, and then Rollins applauded Dominic and then got to business. We went back and forth. There was a kendo stick brought into play. Dominic ended up getting the stick. Rollins started running away from it, trying to avoid the kendo stick. Eventually, Dominic did get some kendo stick shots on Rollins. Charles Coleman with a $5 super chat says, when Roman Reigns took out Braun, he yelled, "I made you." Is this true by Roman being taken out of WrestleMania? Yeah, you could definitely read it that way. And again, I will talk about it later. Okay, here's what we're gonna do. I appreciate the super chats, but anybody that goes off topic, I want everybody in the chat room to say shame every time somebody goes off topic. So that person will be publicly shamed when they go off topic. Stay on topic. Love you guys for the super chats, but I don't want this video going all over the place and people getting mad at me. So let's stick to the topic. Hashtag stick to the topic. That's going to be a new hashtag now. Back to the match. We had Murphy bring out some handcuffs, and Rollins had some evil intentions with these handcuffs. And Mysterio got on the apron. He was getting upset, but then he cooled off. He went back down, and then Ray's wife came out. She was upset about this. Dominic rolled up Rollins for a near fall. Murphy then came into the ring, attacked Dominic because anything goes in this match. It was a street fight. Murphy then took Dominic over by the steel steps, tried to put out his eye, and that's when Mysterio, he stood all he could stood, and he stood enough. He attacked Murphy, and then Rollins and Murphy went after both Dominic and Ray. Ray ended up being handcuffed to the ring rope, and then Rollins started taunting Ray's wife. Dominic went after Rollins again. Dominic hit a 619, went for the big splash, the frog splash, shades of Eddie Guerrero. Rey Mysterio does it, of course. But Rollins got his knees up, and then as Rey Mysterio, handcuffed to the rope, was struggling to get at Rollins, Rollins taunted Ray, and this was a great visual. I love this visual here with Ray in the handcuffs. Rollins hit the stop. Ray had to watch. He could do nothing, and then Rollins pinned a very game Dominic Mysterio to score the victory. Charles Coleman with a $2 super chat says, where is Austin Theory? Austin Theory, according to Rollins, is having personal issues, but there were accusations made against Theory, and he hasn't been on TV since that whole speaking out movement began. So who knows when he'll be back, if he will be back. Adrian with a $2 super chat. Thank you, Adrian. €2, I should say. He says, Dominic's pappy is looking down on him and is very proud. That's right. And thank you for the super chat. Ken, terminated by DQ with a $5 super chat, says, how was Dominic's performance? Do you think he should have went over a top guy or too soon? I thought he did great. For his first match, I thought Dominic did very well. And of course, he had Rollins to work with. This match was laid out very nicely. So whoever produced this match deserves a lot of credit as well, because they showcased Dominic's strengths, hid his weaknesses, told a very compelling story here. And Dominic looked good and looked good in defeat. We talked about this when we did our predictions panel for SummerSlam, and I even mentioned that Dominic did not need to win this match. If he had a good showing, if they booked this match well, Dominic could look just as good in defeat as winning. And he looked really good in defeat here. He put up a great fight against Rollins, and you told a great story here. So big thumbs up for this. This was really well done by everybody. Applause to WWE. Great storytelling, as Bride King says, with a $2 super chat, and he uses the hashtag stick to the topic. TJS with a $2 super chat says, who had the better first match, Pat McAfee or Dominic Mysterio? That's a tough one to answer. I'm very torn. I'm not even sure I could pick one or the other. Both of them did really well. Both of them exceeded expectations. I think I think the Dominic Mysterio match was maybe a little bit more protected with the booking. You had Rey Mysterio out there. You had Rey's wife out there. You had a lot of different bits and pieces and moving parts out there to really make the storyline. It was a story-driven match, but as far as athleticism, Dominic looked really good. And Pat McAfee looked really good in his match too. So I'm torn down the middle. I cannot commit to one person. Both of them did well and exceeded people's expectations. And after the match was over, Rollins was gracious enough to leave the handcuff keys. And once Rey was free, he embraced Dominic, kissed him. If WWE wanted to turn Dominic at some point, they could, because Rey still got involved, even though Dominic had asked him to not get involved. Charles Coleman with a $5 super chat says, "My bad, Aaron, but I think I started the stick to the topic movement, LOL." Well, look at you. We'll give you a Barry Horowitz pat on the back, Charles Coleman, for coming up with a new hashtag. Stick to the topic. All right, let's move on here. Next match was for the Raw Women's Championship. Sasha Banks versus Asuka. And a funny moment here, I mentioned the signs. People were actually putting up signs in front of their webcams during this show. And one person, right when Sasha was in the ring, hard camera got a perfect shot of it. Somebody put up a Fire Velveteen Dream sign. Ooh, I'm sure WWE was not thrilled about this. And I love the signs. We had another one later, which I'll mention. I just hope somebody doesn't go too far. Like, my fear is this is all fun and games until somebody puts up like a pornographic photo, or somebody uses the N-word on a sign. Like, I'm really scared somebody's going to do that. Somebody's going to figure out how to do it, and it's going to ruin everything. Because if fans just brought nice, funny signs, and Fire Velveteen Dream, it's not really anything bad, but I'm sure WWE was not thrilled about it. Despite being hurt earlier by Sasha and Bayley, Asuka held her own in this match, had a hot start, got an arm submission on Sasha, but then she went for a kick. She missed and hit the ring post, and Sasha took advantage. And Sasha hit this brutal sunset flip powerbomb to Asuka onto the floor, and describing it cannot do it justice. The thud was really disturbing. I'm glad Asuka was not seriously hurt from that. Hopefully she wasn't banged up too bad from it. Sasha got several near falls. Asuka made a comeback. Asuka hit a DDT from the second rope. Sasha kicked out of that, rolled to the outside like a veteran would do. And then Sasha later got the Banks statement on, but it was countered into the Asuka lock. Sasha broke out, and then Bayley got on the apron to do her part, her interference. Asuka ran at Sasha to do the hip attack. Sasha moved, but Bayley also moved. Unlike the first match where Sasha took the hip attack for Bayley, Bayley did not return the favor. And Asuka was able to get the Asuka lock on again. Sasha Banks tapped out. And new Raw Women's Champion Asuka. The curse of Sasha continues. I think it's five times as Women's Champion, and she's never successfully defended the title once. So yeah, poor Sasha. She's always losing in her first title defense, but that's just the way the cookie crumbles. Match was really fun, and the storyline here, I think they did it exactly the way it should have gone down. This is pretty much how I laid it out when we did predictions. That Bayley would win with Sasha's help, but then later Bayley would not help Sasha in the same way, and Sasha would lose her title. Hamp Connor with a $2 super chat says, "You cannot have a no DQ party without me," he says. Damn straight, Hamp Connor, and thank you for tuning in. Domestic Butler with a $5 super chat says, "One day Banks will defend her title. Wouldn't she be called a bottler in real life? But I cannot wait to watch her win the Rumble and beat Bayley at WrestleMania." Maybe we'll get it. Next step is will they lose the tag team titles at Payback? That's the question. Now there's a little bit of dissension here. We'll see if WWE continues to slow burn it or if they pull the trigger soon. We had our 2 main event matches, and up to this point, I was feeling really good about the pay-per-view. And I was like, please, WWE, don't screw up these last 2 matches. We had Drew McIntyre defending the WWE title against Randy Orton. Shawn Michaels cut a promo from his home, said he hopes McIntyre would give Orton a claymore that goes right upside the head. Randy Orton made his entrance, and one of the virtual fans held up a Randy Sucks Eggs sign, which was great. And to me, that really added to the show, getting to see people with their signs. I don't know if WWE will like this trend because people could end up putting up racist signs and offensive stuff, but like this is the closest we've gotten to having a real audience in WWE since the pandemic began. Charles Coleman with a $10 super chat. Thank you for that. He says, "I looked at the Drew McIntyre versus Randy Orton match like the John Cena versus Triple H match. Knew Drew was going to win when Drew said in the last promo about how many times Orton passed on knowledge." Well, it wasn't exactly unanimous when it came to the no DQ league predictions. I think I went with McIntyre, but there were quite a few people that went with Randy Orton, thinking maybe we would get some kind of swerve. You know what's funny? Like when we did predictions, everyone's thinking, okay, what screwy finish is WWE going to do? But we actually got a lot of clean finishes on this show. Cad Terminated by DQ with a $5 super chat says, "Rift, why do you think WWE is giving Sasha Banks the Mick Foley treatment? She shouldn't have short reigns like Mankind got. Sasha is too talented." I guess somebody just decided to do the title change and have Sasha win the title so they could keep this storyline going and make it even more interesting. Have Sasha and Bayley as double champions for a bit. Probably not thought out too far in advance. Maybe people did not remember that Sasha has never successfully defended her title. Would have been nice if Sasha at least had one, but maybe that's just going to be her gimmick now, that she can never defend the title. And whenever she wins the title again, they could play up on it in the storyline and say Sasha has never successfully defended the title. So in that sense, WWE can use that to their advantage whenever Sasha wins the title again. But anyways, McIntyre and Orton. Orton went right to the outside when the bell rang. The veteran taking his time, very methodical. Both tried to hit their finishers early in the match, and McIntyre had to regroup at one point. Orton slammed McIntyre on the announce table, then suplexed McIntyre on the floor, went for a cover in the ring, but McIntyre kicked out at 1. You got to do more than that to beat the champ. I like the 1 counts. I want to see more 1 counts. I'm down with the 1 counts because it's always anytime somebody kicks out at 2 early in a match, I'm like, really? That soon? Like, we need more 1 counts. Charles Coleman with a $3 super chat, thank you for that, says, "Drew McIntyre versus Randy Orton was good with no finishers." And we'll talk about that here. Thank you for that. McIntyre was put into a submission, or McIntyre put a submission on Orton, I should say. Orton used the thumb to the eye when the referee was distracted because Orton had grabbed the referee's shirt, acting like it was not intentional. You know, he was trying to get out of the hold, and when the referee wasn't looking, went to the old thumb in the eyes. McIntyre was bleeding a little bit from the eye, made a comeback, hit a future shock DDT. Orton started bleeding from the head. Orton came back, went for a punt, but McIntyre countered that with a powerbomb. McIntyre went for the Claymore. However, Orton ducked. Orton went for the RKO, which McIntyre countered into a backslide for the 1-2-3 victory, beating Randy Orton out of nowhere. Randy Orton did not see it coming. I actually thought this was a really good finish. I know people were like, a backslide, really? But hey, it was something different. And as Coleman mentioned in that previous super chat, nobody actually got hit with a finisher in this match. When was the last time that happened? It's always finisher spam, and I liked it. It was different without anybody actually hitting a finisher in this. And it kept both guys strong. Randy Orton can get a rematch. McIntyre did beat him with a wrestling move, but Randy Orton was not beaten with a finisher. So Orton could say, you know, you got me down for 3 seconds, but I'll get you next time. So I actually thought this was great, the way they did this. And it was clean finish. Can't complain too much. Josh Mansfield with a $5 super chat says, tomorrow fans are actually upset that there were no screwy finishes when they predicted screwy finishes and they were all clean and complaining that they were clean. I'm not one of those people. I'm on record here saying I liked the clean finishes on this show. And yeah, it's a nice change of pace when we're all predicting that, oh, what screwy thing is going to happen? Is Retribution going to interfere? Is Ric Flair going to come out and it was revealed that he was not actually punted by Orton? We're thinking of all these ridiculous scenarios because that's what WWE is known for. It's nice when we actually get something just by the books, straight up, no shenanigans. I liked it. Good stuff here. We had our main event match, which was Braun Strowman versus The Fiend for the Universal Championship. Falls count anywhere. And slight nitpicking here, you know, you got falls count anywhere, no DQ match, street fight. It was a little bit excessive, but again, the Mandy Rose Sonya Deville thing was changed last minute. I would have liked to have seen the hair match. To me, that was probably the only weak point of the show. But I'm not going to put blame on them because of what happened in real life. It's just something unfortunate that forced plans to change. Now, I should note before the match, it was announced that Keith Lee is coming to Monday Night Raw. So there was an intention for Keith Lee to come to the main roster, and that's why he dropped the title. Looks to me like he was a transitional champion. WWE wanted to get the title off of Cole, get it on Cross, so Keith Lee won the title and then lost it. Transitional champion, he's going to Raw anyways. I'm fine with it. I just hope Karrion Kross is not seriously hurt and they have to strip him of the title. I mean, that would really suck. I guess we'll know pretty soon. He's supposed to get an MRI on Monday. Stay tuned to NoDQ.com for updates. Josh Mansfield with a $2 super chat. Thank you, Josh. He says, SummerSlam was more Extreme Rules than Extreme Rules was. Yeah, I would agree with that, Josh, and thank you for the super chat. Strowman went right after The Fiend, and I should say Fiend has a really badass entrance in the Thunderdome. It looks fantastic. And as TJS mentioned earlier, I mean, maybe not the pyro, but the whole entrance and everything, like, The Fiend has a main event entrance. It is there, top 5. I mentioned Karrion Kross. Imagine when Karrion Kross gets to the main roster and you have the full production values with his intro. It's going to be spectacular. Tony H with the $2 super chat says, Braun Strowman 2020, Roman Reigns equals Jinder 2017. Reign changed my mind. Oh, I guess he's talking about Braun's title reign being the same as Jinder's 2017 reign. I would say they're very different. Jinder's reign was not wanted. I was fine with Strowman's reign. It's just too late. I mean, he basically got the title reign because Roman Reigns missed WrestleMania. Ken terminated by DQ with a $5 super chat says, no one is going to make this reference, but the McIntyre Orton match is similar to the Kerry Von Erich Ric Flair match to pay homage to David. Rest in peace. Well, yeah, that's way old school. So, yeah, you're not going to get a lot of people even remembering that match. I barely even remember it myself. I should probably go back and watch it. We had Strowman basically going after The Fiend, and The Fiend was laughing him off. The fight quickly went to the outside. Fiend grabbed a toolbox and used it on Strowman. Strowman tackled Fiend into the barricade. Fiend quickly got back up. Fiend was choke slammed on the table. Table did not break. Strowman and Fiend ended up fighting back in the ring. Strowman hit a power slam, which Fiend kicked out of. And then they fought to the outside again, went backstage in the gorilla position. Nobody was there in the gorilla position. Yeah, that was kind of funny. Nobody running the production back there. No Vince, no Road Dogg, no Triple H, nobody. No Bruce Pritchard. So they brawled in the empty gorilla position. Fiend hit Sister Abigail. Strowman kicked out of that. They fought back to the ring. Strowman was bleeding from the top of his head. Fiend put on the mandible claw. Strowman broke out of that. Strowman brought Fiend back in the ring. Hit a power slam again, but once again, Fiend kicked out. Strowman got frustrated. He grabbed a box cutter, but instead of doing what Gus Fring would do and slit his opponent's wrist, or his throat, I should say, Strowman started to expose the boards, taking a page out of Tommaso Ciampa's playbook. Fiend, though, took advantage of this, hit Sister Abigail twice on the exposed ring boards, and pinned Braun Strowman to regain the Universal Championship. Clean finish. Fiend wins the title. No outside interference, no Alexa Bliss, no retribution. I like it. I guess we'll see what happens with Strowman's character now. He did take a clean loss, but I think The Fiend definitely needed the win more than Strowman. And then after the match, the big moment that I've mentioned earlier, the reason a lot of you are here right now, I got a pretty big turnout for this live stream. Roman Reigns, the big dog. First time since right after the pandemic started. He appeared on, I think, 2 episodes of Smackdown and then bowed out of WrestleMania. Roman Reigns showed up with his brand new t-shirt, Wreck Everyone and Leave, or whatever it was. He speared The Fiend, and then he speared Strowman. He attacked Strowman repeatedly with a steel chair, and then he speared The Fiend again. He then called The Fiend a freak in a mask, and this came off as very heelish. A lot of people wondering, was this a heel turn from Roman Reigns? This was very, very much Roman just going into business for himself and having a major attitude. So yeah, I loved it. Great return here for Roman Reigns. Big surprise here to end the show. Get some buzz for WWE. Reigns held up the title. Yeah, awesome ending to the show. Tony H with a $2 super chat says, save Roman versus Braun Fiend if possible. Well, I would not be shocked if we get something at Payback. I mean, Roman's back now. I would not be surprised if they do something right away, which I do think WWE should not rush with Roman Reigns versus Braun Strowman or Roman Reigns versus The Fiend. And hopefully The Fiend doesn't come out losing to Reigns right away, at least. And TJS says it looks like Fiend is going to get fed to Roman Reigns. We'll have to wait and see. I know people are thinking the worst, but we'll have to see how it plays out. Definitely got a lot of people talking. hell of a show. It's too bad we didn't have like an actual crowd. Like if WWE put out this show in Boston with a sold out crowd, this would have been one of the best SummerSlams of all time. I still think it's one of the better SummerSlams in WWE history, even under the circumstances. The virtual fans really added to this a lot, in my opinion. Doesn't replace a real crowd, but it created a very cool vibe, and it felt like a big time production, which is a big contrast to how some of the PC shows felt. Josh Mansfield with a $2 super chat says, can we get a Mr. Tito versus Virtue live YouTube debate? We're working on it, Josh. Stay tuned. And Ken sent in a $5 super chat, says, Rift, it's funny. I'm talking about the McIntyre Orton match and the Von Erichs. The chat is getting on my butt, LOL. Old school is awesome, though, LOL. And you just keep going with it to keep getting people worked up. You're almost as good of a troll as Virtue, Ken. Adrian with a €2 super chat says, so Braun, Bray, and Roman are all tweeners? Maybe so. Maybe they're taking the Cody Rhodes playbook where nobody's a good guy, nobody's a bad guy. They all think they're the guy. I think Roman might have even used that line, the I'm not good, I'm not bad. I forgot everything he said when he was trash talking, but yeah, he was doing a lot of trash talking. Mike B with a $5 super chat says, SummerSlam was way better than expected. Solid A. Glad Roman Reigns is back. Thank you for that, Mike B. And that is my letter grade. SummerSlam, solid A. Arguably the best pay-per-view of the year. I enjoyed it more, probably more than WrestleMania because of the atmosphere. WrestleMania, unfortunately, had no people, and that brought it down a little bit, but the Boneyard match was awesome, and the matches were good at WrestleMania. But yeah, it was a bit awkward at times with no people there. They did a good thing to split it into 2 nights, but SummerSlam, 3 hours, and everything felt important. So, big thumbs up for this show. Josh Mansfield with a $2 super chat says, nice because their Twitter debate just picked up. Ooh, I'm going to have to get some popcorn and check that out. Mike B with a $5 super chat. Oh, already did that one. Trying to catch up with everything here, so my apologies. Let's see. DYEV with a $5 super chat says, Otis should have cashed in on Braun and Fiend. That would have been funny, LOL. Well, interestingly enough, I asked people on Twitter, like, what would be the worst outcome of Strowman versus Fiend? And everybody kept replying Otis cashing in. So probably best that did not happen. And Little Goth Boy Mike with a $10 super chat. Thank you for that. He says, what can WWE do about the women's division? Becky, Charlotte, Sonya are the only entertaining ones to me and are all gone. Sick of the same old Bayley, Sasha, and Asuka matches. Also, shout out to Dominic. Definitely a shout out to Dominic. You can call up Rhea Ripley at some point, which probably should have happened already. But yeah, you do have a draft coming up, and you can move people around and maybe call up a few people from NXT. Mike B with a $5 super chat says, I'm not a good guy, I'm not a bad guy, I'm the guy. Thank you for that, Mike B. Mike Gonzalez gives the show an A. Roman is retribution. We'll see. Could happen. Never say never. Wonka TV with an A-. LaShawn Davis with an A+. Or LaShawn Davis with an A+. Zach Myers with an A+. Domestic Butler B+. Michael Smelly with an A. Michael Wayne with an A. Mr. Heavy Metal Hero Dude with an A. And Dr. NXT Scorpio with an A-. And Shady Snake gives it a B+. Kim Hall gives it an A-. And Ken gives it a B+. Charles Coleman with a $2 super chat says, hopefully this is a change for WWE Creative. One night, they did it right. Will it continue? Or was this a one-off where somebody was like, let's just not bullshit people and let's just put on the best show we possibly can? Hopefully they keep that attitude. But I'm going to be cautiously optimistic. But hey, I hope WWE sees the feedback for this show and keeps the momentum going. Hassan with a $5 super chat says, I had tickets to all 4 shows this weekend. Sad about not being able to be there live, but thought the show was great. Fresh of breath, air, not have leaner. Well, thank you for that, Hassan. And I do feel bad for the people that had tickets for the Boston shows. That would have been a really good crowd in Boston. And if they had gone with Bayley and Sasha, that would have been a hot match. But all in all, great show from WWE. And I'm curious to see what happens next on Raw and SmackDown. WWE did well. Adrian with a €5 super chat says, it was a good show, certainly not an A show. People are getting carried away. Well, I guess that means me because I thought it was an A show. Arguably the best pay-per-view of the year. Up there with AEW's Revolution. And Revolution had a crowd, so they have a little bit of an advantage. I would say this was the best pandemic show from either company. Better than Double or Nothing. So there you go. But anyways, guys, thank you for tuning in. I appreciate your viewership and support. Tune in for the Raw recap and all the live streams. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and stay tuned to NoDQ.com for the very latest. Nicole sent in a $5 super chat with no comment. Thank you for that. And Charles Coleman with a $2 says, it was an A. Thank you guys again. Take care, everybody, and I will see you all next time.